Hello, this is Ika Bjorn back again, starting off with more paint guides. Today I'm going to be showing you shape creation and line drawing and curving. I'm going to zoom in a bit. Definitely make the parameters smaller so that I can edit on the smallest possible size of everything, because that's always how I have to be. Actually, that's too small. The most basic tool you're going to want to use for this will be a line, which you can simply create, move it around. In editing, you can change the size around it, so it really doesn't matter how you start, because you could start like this, but then you could change it to shape almost any way, and you can change from both ends. It's pretty useful for mostly geometric things if you want to create a shape that isn't on here. Before I go to the curving part, which is slightly more technical, I'll go with different shapes like these. Again, you can rotate any of these, only you don't really need to rotate a circle, but for something like this, actually I'm going to get into this later. That is actually to create your own shape too. I get this confused. But for something like this triangle, suppose you want it to be pointing to the side, so you're going to direct someone to somewhere. Flip, turn, rotate right or left 90 degrees, depending. This is the simplest form of rotation if you're experimenting with stuff. However, certain shapes which I'll get into later, you'll want, like I'll try this one, you'll want to flip vertical and then also flip horizontal to create different sides of the image to view. Yeah, there's circles, rectangles, sort of, I guess they're edgeless quadrilateral things, and then there's the shape creation tool, which I'll get into in a minute. Triangles, sideways quadrilaterals, pentagons, hexagons, arrows pointing in a variety of directions, even though you don't need all those directions because you can simply flip it around, but it's more convenient to have all those directions. I'm going to get rid of all this. Actually, I'm just gonna I actually have no idea how I'm gonna get rid of all this. I'll just ignore that. I'll make it bigger and move on to another part. Anyway, the shape creation tool, it can be used for a variety of things. You can do basic lines to create like a triangle of some sort. It has to connect to the original point though, which actually creates interesting looking shapes when you do that. Always remember that. You can also just create curves by clicking repeatedly or doing something like that. I don't know what you'd want to be doing, but maybe if you want to make a really not very good looking 8, but what I recommend for creating most shapes is using some sort of curve. Like for instance, you wanted to create a football, you could do a line, and one end of the football is here, one end of the football is here. I guess this is probably the simplest example I can think of, and do that, and then put the bottom line here, and you always connect point A to point B on these sorts of edits, and then you have a pretty makeshift football, although that is really if you're just doing basic kind of things you might want to show your friends, but if you're going to do real digital designing, this isn't really the way to do it. However, one thing notice about the curves is you always get 2 chances to move it, so you can move it this way, move it completely the other way, and it can curve around. You can even make loop-de-loops using that. I don't know if you're gonna like want to design a fish by going one way, then going in the exact opposite, and then sort of making a fish shape, only I get confused by that, and I imagine a lot of other people do too, so it's not a very effective plane for creating fish if you're gonna do it that way. The way I'd create a fish, I'd start here, and then I like go to there, and then I'd make this like the other part of its mouth, and then I'd do something like this, and then of course since you get 2 chances to edit it, it's cool to add a curve to the tail of the fish, and then I might use a line for this part because it's easier that way. Maybe add a curve to the back of the fin. That's how you'd create like the most basic fish you could. using Windows Paint. So you can use this to create really basic shapes. And maybe if you want to just maybe if you just like the feel of a digital sort of environment for your pictures instead of just scanning it to your computer over and over again and making it really hard to edit in Paint. That's probably the most basic way to do it. So those are the shapes you can create, and always remember you have two opportunities to move this to create any kind of curve you want, even though you probably want to use more than one curve for a real image you're drawing. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.